Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July edition of The Author's Pen. This month is our video blog post, I should say this week, and I do apologize that I missed the video blog post for June, but June was just such a hectic month for me. I trust that everybody had a safe, healthy, and happy 4th of July weekend. We obviously didn't do a blog post that weekend because of the holiday, and you got to get a break from it every once in a while. Tonight is going to be a little behind the scenes look of what it takes to create the Author's Pen, specifically the weekly blog promo. Now, understand that it's going to look relatively quick as I go through the process of it, but some of that is because a lot of the basic work is already done, meaning the basic underlying template. With my blog posts, I always go with a standard opening and a standard ending. The standard ending is pretty much what I use all the time in my speaking engagements. It's my little saying that I happen to be known for. And I like to keep my opening and my opening music consistent. This way here, you kind of get the flavor of it and you recognize it when you hear it and you see it. The music is always changed in the middle of the blog post. Now, what you're about to see is a lot of fun to create. I am not the genius computer guru. I know more than some and nowhere near as much as others. But, in the process, you have to learn because in this business, you have to save money where you can. I do my own book trailers. I create a lot of book trailers for other writers and authors. I also do opening intros for speakers when they do their speaking engagements as well as for my own. And believe it or not, I do a pretty good amount of social media advertising for different companies. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to create these things. And right now I'm learning the IA platform to integrate some of that into my video presentations. Plus, this is what I do and what I use to create my tutorials that are on udemy.com. I use primarily Wondershare Filmora 12. It's a licensed program. Therefore, any pictures or music I use within it is licensed to me. And I always make sure that any other photos that I use or music that I use on my own is public domain music. And I literally have thousands of pieces of music to choose from and images to choose from. I have to subscribe to a lot of different platforms, which gives me the license to use what they have. And it's a relatively large process. But I thought you might enjoy taking a look behind the scenes, and I promised that a couple of months back, and I did receive an email from Claudia, who's really big into computers. And Claudia, if you're watching, how you doing? And thank you so much for the email, reminding me that I promised to show you a quick preview about how I do that. So without further ado, I'm going to do that and break in and let you see how kind of the process works. And the editing and whatnot and book trailers, they get a lot more intense and take a lot longer to do. But I've got the weekly advertisements for my video and my written blog post promos, down to a science. I put them together in almost no time. So take a look at it, and we'll chat about it a little bit afterwards. Thank you. Okay, so how do we start? Well, the first thing we do is we open up the program. I use Wondershare Filmora 12. Now, I want to open up a previous project, and as you can see, there's quite a few. And what I've learned about creating my weekly promos for my blogs is I like consistency. I like the beginning to be the same and the end to be the same. The audio I pick for the beginning is constant, so the opening is the same for every promo. Now, when I do book promos for myself or other authors, then that music will change. But when it comes to my weekly promos for my blog, the opening and closing is exactly the same. So let's just pick the one I did for last week. So let's open that up. Now, the beautiful part about Filmora is being a licensed registered user, the music that's built into there or the effects that are built into it, I'm automatically covered under that license. So this is what you see in front of you is a basic template that I use every single week. And then I change things along the way. As you can see, the opening as I slide across is the same. And the music that I use is the same. And I'm only going to change certain elements in this is what I'm going to do. Other parts of this are exactly the same, so I keep them that way. And then my ending is also exactly the same. The only thing I change on a weekly basis as I slide through the different tracks is the music that I use. And you can see here at the bottom that this video here, and I'll expand that out a little bigger for you and slide that across. You can see that I have splits in it. This has full audio editing capabilities in it, so I could cut and paste parts of a piece of music out to match the timing and have it end the way I want it to end. So if I was to start at the beginning of this, let's actually see what making the promo for this week would be like. So I'm going to go to the beginning. This is all the same. The only thing I have to do is change the date. So I bring that up, and as you can see, I have a little dialog box here. And this is actually going to be my video blog post for July. So I'm going to change that date to, let's see what the date of the video blog post for July is. And that's going to be July 10th. So we're going to make that change. And this week is a video blog post, so we're going to put in video to replace that. Okay, moving along as we go, as you can see, these are all the different background check clips that are in here. Now, what I could do with this, if I click on this particular video or part of what you see in the background, is I change the compositing, okay? And I could have 100% opacity on that. As you've noticed, I've dropped the opacity on this. This way here I could blend the opacity on this. So basically I have 3 videos going at the same time, but they're all blended together. So when I move along a little further down the template, because like I said, you have to initially start with a template, but then I've gone ahead and changed content as I go along. That never changes. So now I want to change the subtitle here. So let's delete that out and let's put in a behind the scene looks. Okay. So when we move along, as we go through it, this all stays the same. So I never have to mess around with this. I could just, let me just shorten this up a little bit. I could zoom right by that. Now, if you notice this little box here, this is a transition. So this is what allows it to slide in and out or blend into the next clip. But I'm going to be changing this next clip, but I have to create this first, okay? I have to create what this is going to look like. So with that, I use a program called PhotoPad, and we're going to open that up. And we're going to go to the program for, or I should say the file for my weekly blog announcement. Okay, so once that fully loads up, there's just a couple of things that I need to change on it. And we're going to do that. And we're going to call it We want the same font and same color. Sometimes I type a little bit quicker than my brain thinks about it. We're going to call it the author's pen. And we might make that a little bit bigger to fill in the space. I don't really care if it's 2 lines. And now we're going to go to the second line here. And we're going to call it a behind. Or let's call it not a behind the scene looks. Let's call it the making of the author's pen. And we'll delete everything out of it. All right. Spacing needs to be adjusted just a little bit here, so we'll slide that down some. And let's change this. Let's call it a behind the scene look. I think that's a little bit more fitting. And we can make that a little bit smaller now, since we have more words. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, now we have to change the date. And that's going to be July 10th. At 7:30, the rest of it could be the same. I'm just going to kind of slide that down just a bit, just for spacing. All right. I want to keep the template the same for what I might be doing for the following week. So first thing I have to do is save the file. So I'm going to save it as my template. Okay, weekly blog announcement. But I have to change that to the file name. This way here, it's going to overwrite the old one. Okay, and now I'll save it as a JPEG file or a PNG file. It doesn't really make a difference. The quality is high definition, so it's going to work just well. And we'll call this behind the scenes, or behind the scene. Well, actually, let's make that behind the scenes. I like that better. And we're going to save that, but we're going to go back to this. Okay. Great. But there's one thing I forgot to add, and this happens. So I'm on a different monitor that's probably not being recorded now, and I just want to rename that file. Because I always add the date. This way, if I have to look something up, I could find it by date. And that's going to be 7/10/23. Done. All right. Now with that, I could close this window out. I don't need to save the project. I already did. That's going to bring us back to our window. Now I have to add this to change this portion. Okay? And how are we going to do that? Well, it's kind of simple. We go to import. We import the media file that we want. We're going to take it from the folder that we put it in. And I'm going to go to the file name, which was behind the scenes, with the proper date. Okay, there it is. So now I'm going to import that in. Now, here's the key. When using a lot of programs like this, I'm not looking to make this fit perfectly at this point, because if I do, it could slide everything over and throw everything else out of whack. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the original one that's here, and I'm going to delete it. Okay, now that's deleted. Now I'll just expand it. I'll let it fit. Then the next thing I want to do is change this like button, because that's from the old last week's post. So what do we want to do? So let's look at some of our background picture files, and let's see what we got. And I'm pretty sure I have one that's a behind the scenes logo. It's just a matter of finding it. You accumulate so many different pictures. There it is right there. But you notice it's a JPEG file. So I don't know if I want all this white on the outside. So I'm going to open up Photoshop really quick, which is going to be on a different screen, which probably won't be recorded. And I'm going to take this white background out, and you'll see why, or understand why in a moment. Because if I put this in, this whole white background is going to fill the back, and I don't want that. So as you can see, as you're doing this, it's a lot of preparation is really what it is. Now, I'm pretty computer savvy, maybe more than some and less than others. So sometimes, a lot of times, it's a learning process for me. So I've just removed the background, the white background in Photoshop. And I'm going to save that now as a PNG file, not a JPEG file, because if I save it as a JPEG file, then I'm going to get the little square boxes that replace the white background, and we don't want that. That'll take a second to process and save. And then there it is. It came up. I'm going to import that. Let's find where it put that. There it is. Now you see how it's black in the background? And there's a reason for that. So we'll throw that kind of like in the middle. And let's remove this like button. Okay. I hope you guys are kind of enjoying this. I know a lot of people are technically savvy, much more than I am. But I do get a lot of posts from people or email from people asking me, how do you produce it? How do you make it? So now you see I don't have that white background, okay? And the reason I don't want the white background is I want the consistency of this. It's part of the original template. Now, we lost those transitions, if you notice that. So now I open up the different transitions that are available to me. I have my favorites that I use, and I've made them favorites, so it's easy for me to get to them. And I use that first one, and I put it there. And then I like to use, where are you hiding on me? This one. Where did you go? Yes. Sometimes when they do updates, they change. So let's see what that looks like now. Okay. And then that ripples out and goes to behind the scenes. Now we have to change these words. Remember I said this is a template. So I just double click it, and there's my template. So what keywords do I want to put in that we're talking about? Well, one, we talked about the program. And we talked about audio. And we're going to talk about effects. And let's go pictures. And what do we want to put on this side? And this is where, you have to be a little creative because you can't run out of things to say. Let's see, templates. How about sizing? How about music? And the last one is going to be, let's see, what could we use? See, now if we were doing this in a Zoom conversation, you all could give me some suggestions. Timing. And let's talk about timing because certain platforms allow you only a certain amount of time. So I like to try and keep mine all under a minute. So now that's gone well. That's part of the template. Now we have to see what we want to put here to replace this picture. All right. Let's go back to the media so we see everything that we have here. And we're going to have to import something that is kind of reflective of what we're talking about. So let's look and see what we have. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we can do. And if not, I subscribe to many other platforms where I could download pictures and things like that. Let's try this. Therefore, it makes me licensed to use them. Okay, so you notice we have a little dissolve transition here. I'm just going to move that over here for a minute. And I'm going to slide this up and kind of out of the way because I don't want this to move over. I want it to stay there so the timing stays the same. I'm going to kind of slip this right into here. And I'm going to take this dissolve feature that I have and put it there. Now I could delete that. But now I want to fill the screen with this because I don't want these black bars on the end. So I double click the image. First thing I have to do is unlock it so I could adjust it. Now notice there's no side bars or squares for me to access until I unlock the image. Once I unlock it, then I can make it a little bit bigger to fill the screen. A little bit more. And there we go. The screen is now full. Now I already have the timing set for these things. It's just a matter of what I want to say. Okay. So I'll put something in that's a little bit of a joke kind of thing. And then we'll move this over just a tad. And we'll change that to now, what I like to do is, because this is 4 lines, I want to keep the next one 4 lines. And then I could choose here the type of animation that I want. Okay? So let's go back to the beginning and see what this whole thing looks like when it's all said and done. So we're going to look at this for about a minute. Now I have it set in half playback quality, so I know it's going to look much better at full playback quality. So I have a lot going on. It may look like it's skipping here or there, but in reality it's not. And I could always use this button to render a preview, and that would smoothen it right out. But by now I know what they look like, so I don't have to do that every single time. And then that brings me to my ending. So that's how a blog promo was created. Although it's not all done just yet, because there's one last thing to add in, and that's the audio. So let's take out audio that's here from the previous one. And I don't know how well you'll hear this. Hopefully you will, but as you notice, you could see this little line drawn here. That's the fade. Now we have to pick out some audio for this particular blog promo. Now, under mine, these are some of my favorites, some of the ones that I tend to use a lot. And then under my music is where I have really all, say, the YouTube library, public domain stuff, so you don't have to worry about things being copywritten. So what I need to do is preview to see what I want. What type of, I want something semi-exciting. That's kind of nice. It's got a little beat to it. If we wanted to hear something else, let's say, that's probably a little too heavy, a little bit too much. I can listen to something as soon as it starts to know whether I would use it or not. That doesn't do anything for me. I kind of like, I mean, there's tons to look through, okay? But I kind of like this one because I kind of like the way it opens up. So let's put it in there where we want it, which is right at the fade. Okay. Now, I could put my cursor on this line and I could change the volume. But for now, I'm just going to double click on it and I can do everything I want to do with it here. So let's just give you an idea. All right, now that gets a little too quiet for me. I would like that part to be a little bit louder. So I know where it starts. It starts right there. Let's try and get this exactly where I want it. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to put a split in there. Now that split, you're never going to hear it. It's just a marker point. But hear the volume difference? Now watch what I'm going to do. Just for that split, I'm going to bring it up by 6 decibels. You probably saw the wave pattern go up higher. Now let's listen to what we've done. Okay, so you notice it kicks in real nice. Now a lot of this cam music repeats itself, so I got to see how it's going to end. Alright, so you see there's a little change there, which I kind of like. So I'm going to take out the double part, which is right there. So I'm going to put a little split there. Because all this is a double of what we already heard. Then we have an instrumentation change, because I only have a minute, so I want to get some variety. I split it, select it, delete it, slide this over, and let's see what we got. I don't know if I'm really wild about that transition, so let me spread this out a little bit more. I get a little bit more of a feeling of what I got to work with here. Maybe it's not bad. Seems like it cuts in just a little bit too late, so I'm going to slide it out just a little bit and see what happens. Extend it out a little more. Hear how smooth that was? So it doubles again there. Now we're at the end. Okay, I can live with that, and you'll see why. Let's split it. Let's delete the rest of it, and let's put a fade out. Okay, now, I don't totally like the way that faded out, so let's go back to transition. I didn't like the video end of it. So let's make that kind of like fade out into the sunset here. Okay, so that's our whole less than 1 minute promo clip. Okay, now let's look at the whole thing with music in its entirety. Okay, that's it. I'm happy with it. All right. But doesn't mean it's totally over. All right. Because now we want to make sure that this is saved so it'll look really good on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. And I want to make sure it's in widescreen and high definition. So I'm not going to go through all the file saving processes. But again, I would just hit export. That's my title. That's the folder it's going to go to. And I have a blog post promo setting. All right. When I look at that, you could see it's at high definition, widescreen, a good bit rate. It's great. And at this point, I would just save it. It's higher quality. I could change the frame rate from 25 to 29, but on social media, it's not going to make much of a difference. The same thing on YouTube or Vimeo. So no point in tying up the extra disk space. And that's it. Okay, now that you've seen what it takes to put a promo together, and Filmora is just one of the programs that I use. I also use vMix and a couple of others. I also use from Sony some of their music editing software for really fine, detailed work. And that I do a lot when I do my book trailers. But, everybody has their own choices as to what they like to use and what they get used to. And there are other programs out there that do the same thing that are probably equally as good. This is just what I've learned and what I've used for the 3 years or so that I've been doing this blog post kind of thing. So I know it inside and out, and I'm comfortable with it. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Got a little taste of what it's like to see what puts this thing together. And I look forward to you subscribing to my blog, subscribing to my YouTube or video channels. And please follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. And also, at the bottom is my email. Please feel free. Send me comments, emails, and I'm always looking for suggestions for blog post topics. I've said this many times. At least 90% of the topics that I talk about in my blogs are requested topics from my subscribers and my readers. So I'm always looking for great ideas. Thank you so much. God bless. Live with an open heart, live with an open mind, and live your best life. Thank you.